Today we are continuing our series on faith, how faith grows and develops. We're looking at the Gospel of John and the signs that Jesus performed that are recorded there. And thank you for joining us in this series. I really hope that this series on faith is allowing your faith in God to grow stronger and stronger. That's certainly my wish and my prayer. Today we're going to take a first look at the sixth sign that John records in his Gospel that Jesus performed. The historical record tells us that as Jesus walked along, he saw a man blind from birth. After Jesus told his disciples, "We must work the works of him who sent me while it is still day," Jesus obviously felt God the Father had sent him, right? And after Jesus said, "I am the light of the world," now that's an interesting thought when you think about what he's about to do for this blind man. Then he spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva and spread the mud on the blind man's eyes. Then he told the blind man to go and wash in the pool of Siloam. Now, perhaps you are asking, why did Jesus instruct the man to wash in the pool? After all, Jesus could have given him sight just by saying the word. You remember that in John chapter 4, this is how he healed the nobleman's son. He just said the word, and this dying boy was saved. Of course, there was no miracle-working power in the mud or in the pool. Perhaps it is that Jesus is only testing this blind man's faith. Perhaps he's only wanting to see if this blind man will follow his instructions, if he's willing to take a bit of a chance, a bit of a risk. And just here, let me add that that really is what God asks us to do when we place our faith in him. Take a bit of a chance. Take a little bit of a risk. Are you willing to take a little risk? Well, this man took that risk, and he was rewarded. The verse tells us that he went to the pool, and he washed his eyes, and he came back able to see. Now, what evidence do you see that a genuine miracle occurred? For me, it is that others admit that this formerly blind man was indeed blind from birth, and that he indeed was now able to see. We first hear from the neighbors in chapter 9 of the Gospel of John, verses 8 and 9. The neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar began to ask, "Is this not the man who used to sit and beg?" "Yes, it is he," they said. And then we have the testimony of the religious leaders themselves in verse 15. They asked the blind man about what happened to him. And in verse 15, the text tells us, well, the man says, "He just put mud on my eyes, I washed, and now I am able to see." What's interesting to me is that the Pharisees, who were the religious leaders who are interrogating this man, these were opponents of Jesus, as we've seen before. And yet they don't deny that a miracle occurred. I want to come back to that in just a minute. Final testimony that a genuine miracle occurred comes from the blind man's parents. We find that in verse 20. The Pharisees inquire of the parents, "Can you tell us what's gone on?" And the parents answer, "We know that this is our son and that he was born blind, but we do not now know how it is that he is able to see." They attest that this formerly blind man is their son, and that he was born blind, but they're not willing to state how it is that he is now able to see. The point is, a genuine miracle occurred. Now back to those religious leaders. To me, the most convincing evidence that a genuine miracle occurred is that even the opponents of Jesus do not deny it. Their beef is that it happened on a Sabbath day. Now we've talked about that before. But they don't deny that a genuine miracle occurred. So I think we can agree that there's plenty of evidence here to support the idea that Jesus actually healed a man who was born blind. Now, you might want to read John chapter 9 for yourself. It's the story of one of the greatest miracles that Jesus ever performed. And I'll let you in on a little secret. Actually, you'll see this as you read this chapter. The story is really not about the miracle. The story is about the effect of the miracle. And that's what we'll begin to address in our next post. Again, I want to thank you for viewing, and I'll see you again soon.